Hello and welcome to LearnDoBecome Radio. This is Aaliyah, one of the team members here from LearnDoBecome, and I'm so excited to introduce today's podcast episode. This is a special episode because we're combining two of our semi-recent YouTube videos. These were recorded earlier in the year, and I think they work really well together. So I was able to choose a couple of the videos I wanted to turn into an audio format. The first one is 5 ways to make time for projects, and the second is secrets of the 2-minute rule. So if you're looking for some additional tips and support on making time for projects and being able to complete them in a way that feels very low stress and very manageable, this is going to be a fantastic podcast episode and a great resource for that. And 2 quick things before I jump into the video, or at least before April jumps into the teaching portion in her videos. We want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is a great resource, and we post a video each week. We have a wonderful archive or a wonderful library of videos available. It's just fun to grow our YouTube community where you could leave comments on the video. You can let us know what other things you'd like to see on the channel. We know sometimes it's fun to have a visual lesson or something where you can actually see what April's talking about or see what our team has been doing or implementing. The podcast is awesome too, but the YouTube channel is fun. So if you want to check that out, it's LearnDoBecome.com/YouTube, and you'll find our full channel there. And additionally, if you'd like to read any of our show notes, we have a quick summary of this podcast, as well as some helpful timestamps and related links. All of that is going to be on our show notes page at LearnDoBecome.com/episode 221 or /episode 221. So without further ado, here is April teaching us all about the 5 ways to make time for projects.
Hey, it's April Perry from LearnDoBecome.com. Today we're having a little sit-down conversation about how you actually get things done, projects done, when you feel like you literally have no time. I'm going to share some ideas that were really helpful to me and to members of our community, and I hope that this inspires you today. So first, I just want to acknowledge that this is a legitimate pain point for a lot of people. Whether you're caring for children, you have a full-time job, maybe you're working multiple part-time jobs, maybe you're caring for aging parents, maybe you're really involved in the community. But if you have a lot going on every single day, then you might be wondering, well, how am I ever going to get my house organized or build that new business I was looking forward to or make some difference in the world that's in my heart? And so you start to feel a little bit frustrated because every day starts to feel like Groundhog's Day, where you wake up, you run really hard, you're working, you're cooking, shopping, cleaning, caring for everything, answering emails, and then you just go to bed exhausted. I actually went through this a lot when our children were younger. Eric and I were trying to start a business. We had a lot of extra things going on, and every night all I wanted to do was just sit and watch TV for hours and hours and hours because it felt too hard to step into something else. So I'm going to share 5 ideas that literally changed the game for me, even when we had young children, tons of responsibilities, and all these things that we were trying to get done together. I'm really excited, so let's dive in. First, I really want to emphasize the importance of doing a weekly review. Now, this might seem, it's too much, I don't have time for a weekly review, but honestly, even a half an hour to 1 hour of really focused attention looking at the big picture of your week will make a difference. So for a weekly review, that's where, just at a very, very high level, that's where you're looking at your calendar, what's coming up, any errands or discussions or housework you need to do, which routines are already in place, which projects you might want to work on that week, just taking time to plan ahead. And when you do a weekly review and you're in a stage of life where you have a ton going on, you want to make sure you do that weekly review when you have the most energy. So it could be on a Sunday afternoon after you've had a little nap. It could be on a Friday morning where you got to bed early Thursday night, you get up Friday and you have a little bit of quiet. But you want to schedule, figure out, coordinate 1 hour ideally to really sit and plan, because that planning, it's going to give you so much leverage on the week. If I ever didn't do a weekly review, let's say I was just overwhelmed, sick, I didn't feel like it, I just noticed a huge difference. Things were dropped, I was delayed, I was late to things, I was feeling overwhelmed. But every week now, I just make sure I at least spend, 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever you can, to just do that planning ahead. It's going to make a big difference. Okay, now let's talk about a daily plan. Now you might be thinking, wait, April, we just talked about a weekly plan. I have to do it daily as well. The daily plan is a lot shorter, a lot simpler. It can even be 5 minutes. And you can do it the night before, or you can do it right when you get up in the morning. But it's focused time when no one's talking to you, where you're actually thinking through the day, reflecting on what you already planned during your weekly review. You're just creating your day. You're looking at your appointments, you're looking at your tasks, you're looking at the relationships you want to build. You're just looking ahead to see, how could I fit my tasks and appointments and energy and structure into this day? We have another video all about creating your day, so we'll link that here in the caption. But if you can just get in the habit, even just those two things, a weekly review and then a very brief daily review, when you have the most energy, it's going to feel great. The reason I really emphasize doing it when you have the most energy is because if you wait until you're exhausted to plan your week or your day, you're going to feel kind of down about yourself. You'll feel a little discouraged. Maybe anything that didn't go right that day is going to seem bigger. But if you're well rested and focused, and for me, I really like to connect with my higher power and then plan in that state, then no matter what you have going on, if you have people who are sick or really challenging situations or a really demanding job or a lot of stress, you're going to be planning from that best version of yourself. So a daily plan, just make that a part of your daily routine. Okay, next I want to talk about having a very short current projects list, because if the question is, how do I get my projects done if I have a ton going on? Well, let's first look at what your projects list actually consists of. Here at LearnDoBecome, in our Steps to Everyday Productivity program, we recommend you create a current projects list that's very short. Now, typically I'll share that each category, me, family, and beyond, would have between 1 and 3 projects each. So on your full current projects list, maximum, 7 or 8 projects. However, when you have a lot going on and you're trying to do 7 or 8 projects, if they're significant or substantial projects, you're going to find that just feels like a ton. And so often people will say, I have no project time. And so I'll ask the question, tell me about your daily routines. What are you doing every day? And then they'll say things like, well, I get up early and I exercise and I take care of my children and I work full time and I volunteer and I come home and I'm doing dinner and homework and activities and all these things. And then they're wondering why they don't have project time. And it makes perfect sense why they don't have project time, because they have so many routines that are on their plate right now. Now that's fine. If you're in that stage of life, what I would recommend is you have maybe 1 to 3 projects that you're working on for the month total. That includes projects for you, for your family, and beyond, which is like work and volunteer work. So the way I think of it is they kind of work together. So if you have a ton of routines, I would say a small number of projects. Or if you have very few routines, then you could have more projects, right? So if you think of it like that balance and recognize we're human, we can't do everything at once. No one's asking you to do all things for all people all the time. But those are the kinds of things I used to tell myself. I would feel really down that I wasn't writing a book or doing all these activities while I was raising 4 children and building a business and taking care of a lot of other things at the same time. So giving ourselves grace and really looking at the routine project, that's going to be amazing, and it's going to help you keep that current projects list small or really reasonable considering what you have on your plate. All right, now let's dive into the next actions list. We've spoken about this a lot here on the channel, so there's more videos if you want more details. But essentially, if you have next actions totally ready to go for your projects that you want to move forward, it's just much easier to just get them done. So I'll give an example of what I used to do that didn't work. I would have a big project in mind, like we need to redo the backyard, or I'm going to build this new website. And those things were looming over my shoulders, over my head every night. And so that's where I would, put our children to bed, and then I'd sit on the couch and think, redo the backyard or go build a website. That's so big. I'll just watch TV. So instead, if you can boil your projects down to a very next action, something you can do in 10 minutes or less, I learned this from David Allen, author of Getting Things Done, then that next action is going to be really easy to work on. So let's talk about redoing the backyard. We actually had this little tiny backyard that just needed some care. And so when we thought, well, what does it mean to redo it? What's a next action? The first thing that we needed was to pour some concrete, and then we were going to do some grass and then some little toys and stuff for the kids. So, okay, concrete, if that's the next step, maybe just calling a company and getting one quote. That's a next action. So that would go on a phone call list, call a concrete company for a quote, right? Or something like build the website. This is where I literally procrastinated this for weeks and months because I didn't know how to build a website. So a next action would be email my friend who can at least create a logo and get some digital files ready, and then we can move forward. So when you have these little next actions, a phone call, an email, and you put that on your next actions list, then when the time pops up during the week and you have some energy and 10 minutes or whatever, you can just do it. So during your weekly review and daily review, being able to boil down those current projects into next actions, be able to put those next actions, kind of into your day and be able to see how you can work from that list, it's just going to give you some relief because you'll start moving forward. The biggest lie is that you have to have hours of free time in order to get a project done. Literally every project that I've accomplished in the past decade and longer, they've all been done in microbursts, 10 minutes at a time. That's how we've built our family, that's how we organize our house, that's how we've built the business, that's how we've done literally every project. So think microbursts and keep that next actions list updated and ready to go. Okay, my final piece of information is mostly for individuals who are trying to work alongside a family. Because what often happens is you turn to childcare or caring for a parent or something like that, and that becomes all consuming because people are talking to you and you're trying to engage, and then you're like, how do I get anything done? And I used to end up snapping at my family, getting really grumpy, stomping around the house, saying, I never have time for anything, nobody cares about me. I'm sure you can't relate to that. So the key that literally changed everything for me was to start working alongside my family members on these projects. Now there's a couple ways that I did it. One way we worked together was actually doing it together. The other way was we would be alongside one another. They would be doing something else while I'm working next to them. So let me just go into a little more detail because hopefully it'll be helpful. Okay, so first of all, I found on big projects, whether it was an email or a phone call or something I was doing in the house, that if I could make it a relationship building activity or train my children alongside me, that just made it more fun. So I actually had my children learn how to type and they would help me reply to emails. Or if we were making a phone call, they could help dial the number. Or if we were working on something in the house, I would empty things out of the pantry and I would say, okay, let's put all the boxed things over there and then you're gonna put these things over there. And so our children would just work alongside me and we would get these little next actions and things done together. Sometimes we'd play music, sometimes we would just enjoy and talk while we did it. But when you think about projects and having it be more of a family effort, it just becomes something that's very natural. Then the other way is if we were working side by side, we had all kinds of activities. So make sure that the children could color or work on their homework or do something while I was sitting right there, and we would learn how to create boundaries and be able to work alongside one another. But that way I didn't feel like the house has to be quiet, everyone needs to be gone, in order for me to get things done. We could just get things done together. So hopefully this idea and the ideas that we've shared in this video will help you to see that if you have a lot going on, it's still totally possible to make progress bit by bit. And sometimes you're just going to be tired, and so you'll just want to take a nap or go to bed early or maybe just do less, and I hope that you can give yourself that grace and understanding, because the fact that you're here at the LearnDoBecome YouTube channel shows that you really care about creating systems. You want a strong family, you want to live your purpose, you want to take care of yourself, and you want to be able to get things done and have that momentum and sense of progress. And it's really hard to feel that momentum when it just seems like everything needs you and you don't have time. So as you can learn how to take these little steps, make improvements, maybe get that different job, maybe, downsize your house or reorganize your area or come up with systems that will strengthen your family, you're going to see that over time, life starts to feel happier and smoother, the friction goes away, and you feel a lot more hope. We want you to wake up excited and go to bed content.
This is Leah again, and wasn't that a great video? I love all these reminders, and this is something that I'm continuing to implement in my life, especially the daily planning. I used to just do this on my own, but now my husband and I are making an additional effort to do our daily planning together so we can better delegate the tasks of the day, any errands, our schedule balancing work and school with our son. It's been really great for us, and it's helped us to have more time for projects and more time to complete our next actions. So I think that ties in very well with the last point of working together as a family or working together as a household. And again, if you want a refresher on any of these tips, they're all going to be on our show notes page, LearnDoBecome.com/episode 221. And we also wanted to read a couple of the comments left on this video. Joanna said, "I love the idea of understanding that routines and projects need to be in balance with each other. It's hard to feel like I had a productive day when all that happened were routines, but routines are a lot of productivity. Thank you, April." And I think my mom, April, responded, "That's so true. Routines can feel mundane, but they are productive. They keep our lives moving forward." And we're so happy to hear that this video resonated with you. So again, we always love receiving the comments here on YouTube. If you ever want to leave one, you're more than welcome to. And we also have a comment here from Michelle. And Michelle says, "I also need to build a website, so this is really something I should do. I also have to fix the handle to one of my double ovens so I can use it again. It's been months. Thank you for the doable reminder, a reminder since I'm also in Step Mastery, and I will begin both big projects." And I love this encouragement that we are able to see from these community members, because I think we all have one of those projects in our lives that feels really big. It might feel like, I just don't have enough time or energy, or it's a really busy season right now, and I just feel like the last thing I need is this project in my life. But when we can approach these big projects or projects that feel really stressful or have a lot of attached to them, whether it's a lot of small next actions or it's a very consequential project, positive or negative, I think it can help us to go back to the basics and really streamline our current projects list so that we're only focusing on what needs to be happening right at that moment in time, and then to give ourselves simple next actions so we're not stressing ourselves out and we're making sure that it's really manageable, that we couldn't possibly procrastinate these next actions, and that we're also looking for support. Whether it's support from our family or those in our household or roommates or anything like that, or even support from the Learn, Do, Become community. And at the end of this podcast, I'll share a little bit more about how you can come into this community if that's something you're interested in. And with the second video that we're sharing, it is called Secrets of the 2-Minute Rule. So again, without further ado, here's April teaching us all about some things you can do with the 2-minute rule to make it just an even better tool than it already is.
Does the 2-minute rule feel great in theory, but you feel like it won't work for you because you have way too many? We're going to solve that today. Now, you may be wondering what the 2-minute rule is. I first learned this from David Allen, author of Getting Things Done. Essentially, he says if a task takes 2 minutes or less, you just do it. You don't write it down, you don't delay it, you don't procrastinate it, just get it done. But what I hear from people all the time is, well, I have 300 2-minute tasks. Should I just do all of them right now? Because if I do, I'm never going to get to my projects or other things that need to get done. So if that's you, here's what I would say. If you legitimately do have 300 2-minute tasks, I guarantee the majority of those could be grouped into projects. So maybe you have some computer work that needs to be done, an email account that needs to be, managed. Maybe there's a room that needs to be cleaned, or there's something else that's really involves maybe 10, 20, 30 of the 2-minute tasks. Then if you look at the big picture and you just pull out the 2-minute tasks that truly are independent, you're going to notice there's not as many, and it's going to feel a lot easier. Maybe you need to run something to a different room and put it where it belongs. Maybe you need to Venmo someone the money that you owe them. Maybe you need to quickly schedule an appointment, or you need to just buy something online real fast. Those little tasks can just get done quickly, and then they don't need to clutter up your lists. Otherwise, you create the projects and you can just not identify all the 2-minute tasks right then. Just know I'm going to work on this specific project once it's on my current projects list and totally get it done. Hopefully this helps alleviate the burden you might feel is on your shoulders when you look at all the things that need to be done. as you learn how to create your projects, your routines, your simple systems, and build the full step Command Central, you're going to feel this peace and relief, and you'll notice things just start getting done quickly.
I hope these 2 videos were helpful, and I'll have them both linked on the show notes. There are a couple fun diagrams or pictures that are not necessarily required at all to understand the principles in these videos, but if you'd like to go back and take a look at them, they'll be on the show notes page for you. And I wanted to read a couple of the comments on this 2-minute rule video. The first is from Jen, and Jen says, I had that exact question myself. Thanks so much for answering it. I think one big thing that helps me with all the tasks that are really projects that I want to do is knowing that I can put them on my next in line projects list. Then I'll know I'll get to them eventually once they're a priority for me. I also learned that next in line concept from STEP, and I'm so grateful. I highly recommend it. And finally, Michelle said, I love the diagram of how multi-step projects can actually look like a great number of 2-minute tasks. I'll put that diagram on the show notes page, and so that way you can reference it. It's a really helpful little diagram to show how we can group our 2-minute tasks. Now back to Michelle's comment. It said, I do understand this principle by now after having become a Step Mastery member, but the visual is most helpful for a clear picture of what a 2-minute task actually is. So I hope these resources are helpful for you and that you can start making progress with your projects and your next actions, and even those 2-minute tasks that maybe they could be a project or maybe they are simple tasks. These principles have been incredibly helpful in my life. I've been learning STEP from my parents for the past 10 years, and I'm still learning new ways to better implement them in my life, but it's been so incredible to learn how to really jump into adulthood, jump into work and responsibilities and all the different passions and goals that I have, and know that I have a system to back me up. So if you're looking for additional support on how you can also create the system in your life, we have a great introductory class, free class called How to Finally Stop Drowning in Piles, and you can find that at LearnDoBecome.com/step. We also have a free community, and that's a great, amazing place on Facebook where you can find friends and people who are going through the STEP program, or even those who've listened to the podcast and watched YouTube videos and learned principles from there. There's just some incredible before and after pictures, people sharing experiences, people asking some general questions about what other people have done in this certain circumstance and how they've implemented STEP principles. And by the way, STEP stands for Steps to Everyday Productivity, if that's the first time you're hearing this acronym. And you can find our free Facebook community at LearnDoBecome.com/FB family. FB short for Facebook, family. And we welcome everyone, and we love hearing from our community members in there. So again, if you want a more formal introduction to all of the STEP principles and you want to learn more about the programs we have to offer, LearnDoBecome.com/step is going to be the best place to get started. So thank you again for joining us on this podcast, and we're so grateful that you've joined us in this community. I believe this will be going live the week of Thanksgiving in the United States, and whether or not you're celebrating today, we hope you know how grateful we are for you and how grateful we are for the connections made in this community and the ways that we are all moving forward so that we can wake up excited and go to bed content. That's my mom's catchphrase, or her go-to phrase, and I love it. And I hope that that's something that resonates with you as well. So again, we're so grateful for you. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we will see you on our next podcast episode.